February 1997. I'm still working at Illyria Arts. Still have no specific memories of what was going on in my life at this time. I promise there are some memories coming up. Maybe you don't care about that, but that's part of this whole video series. It's reading Remembrances. But since I don't remember anything too specific, we're going to jump right into the books that I read in February of 1997, and I started with Columbo, The Hoffa Connection by William Harrington. And in this beautiful mega rock star is found dead in her swimming pool, and Columbo comes in to solve this mystery, and somehow it's connected with the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. It's Columbo. I like Columbo, and it's not a bad book. I don't really have much more to say about it. There was a short series of these Columbo mysteries, and they were enjoyable. If you like a good mystery, if you like Columbo. Next up, we have Mad Amos by Alan Dean Foster, and this is a collection of short stories featuring Amos Malone, a.k.a. Mad Amos. He was Mountain Man back in the Old West, but this is the Weird West. And so in each story, he's dealing with some either fantasy or science fiction or horror elements, something. I think his horse is a unicorn. Excuse me. But each story just deals with something weird. And it's Alan Dean Foster. He's a good writer. He writes really fun fantasy stuff, and I like a mixture of genres. So this was right up my alley. You've got the whole Western theme, but also these other bizarre elements. So I think there's like 10 stories, 10 to 12, of Mad Amos. Then, even better, possibly the best, we have Writer of the Purple Rage by Joe R. Lansdale. This is a short story collection, and it's Lansdale, so you know it's good. But just to point out two important highlights of stories that are included here, we have Bubba Ho-Tep, which of course was made into the movie starring Bruce Campbell and Ozzie Davis, I believe, where you have Elvis in a nursing home, or at least a man who claims to be Elvis in a nursing home. You have a black man that claims to be John F. Kennedy, and you have a mummy that is sucking the souls out of people, and Elvis and Kennedy have to try and stop it. Great story, great movie, starring, I already said, Bruce Campbell, Ozzie Davis, I believe directed by Don Coscarelli of Phantasm fame. And the other story in here, let me just double check the full title. There's a lot of stories in here, but Incident on and Off a Mountain Road was an episode of Masters of Horror, and it was also directed, if I'm not mistaken, by Don Coscarelli. And a really, really good story, really well done in the Masters of Horror episode. I believe it had Ethan Embry, Angus Scrimm, and an actress that I really, really like, and I cannot think of her name at the moment. Bree something. But she's great. I always like Ethan Embry. It's nice to see Angus Scrimm. Really, really cool story with a nice twist. So that's just two highlights in this great, great short story collection by Joe Lansdale. Then I read Hercules, The Eye of the Ram by Timothy Boggs, another book based on Hercules, the Legendary Journeys TV show. I believe that's the name of the show. And in this one, there's a guy, let me check my notes. Dragar the magician. He's part of this traveling show, but he wants to conquer the world, and he's coming very close to getting everything he needs to conquer the world. But he must destroy the one thing in his way, which is, of course, Hercules. Just some fun, light adventure reading. Then we get a little deeper in our reading with Prelude to Foundation by Isaac Asimov. This is the first of two prequels to the Foundation series. So, even though Foundation is the first one written, this is the first one that you'd want to read if you want to actually read the whole Foundation series in story order. And this always blows me away, takes place in the year 12,020 GE, which I believe is Galactic Empire. But we have Emperor Cleon the First sitting on the throne, essentially. But, there are people that want to take him down, and he thinks that if he can figure out who they are, if he can sort of see the future, he can keep himself secure. Bring in Harry Sheldon, right? That's his name, Harry Sheldon, the star of Foundation, and his psychohistory, which essentially is a scientific basis for predicting the future. Basically, if I remember correctly, using statistics of all known history to predict what's going to happen. And so he's basically become sort of the most wanted man in the most wanted man around, because everybody wants to control, have access to, or control the psychohistory. So, of course, Emperor Cleon, of course, wants this to keep himself safe. It's Isaac Asimov. It's great, great stuff. I just love his writing. I've mentioned many times, my favorite science fiction author. Then we have Otherwhere, spelled W-E-R-E, Otherwhere, edited by Laura Ann Gilman and Keith R.A. DiCandido. And this is an anthology of, it says on the cover, transformation stories, I believe is what it says. These are basically lycanthropy stories, but they're not all werewolf stories. They're things transforming into other things. And you've got authors like Peter David, Craig Shaw Gardner, and a name I love to say, Nina Kariki Hoffman. Hopefully I've said that correctly. But a nice mix of different types of stories. You don't know who's going to transform into what. It's not all werewolves. It might be a were-deer or a were-tree. I don't think there's any were-trees in there, but just, again, stories of transformation. I don't think there's a were-turtle, which is what I'm really looking for. But anyway, next we have Babylon 5 Accusations by Lois Tilton. Lois. Did I say that the first time? Lois Tilton. Book 2, as you can clearly see on the cover there, of the Babylon 5 book series. And in this, an old friend comes to visit Ivanova, Commander Susan Ivanova, asking for a meeting, but before they can meet, he's murdered. And the Mars colony, let me see. Word from the Mars colony is that the man was a terrorist, and now investigators are coming to Babylon 5, and they're accusing Ivanova of working with this guy, and they might be going after Security Chief Garibaldi as well. So, of course, they have to, clear their names, figure out what's really going on, and deal with stuff with Mars. Good stuff. Again, really a big fan of Babylon 5, the TV show. And so I just enjoy more stories in that world with characters that I really, really like. So there you go. Then, wow, I'm really flying through these, I feel like. Next up, Batman, Shadows of the Past by Geary Gravel. This is another um, novelization of Batman the Animated Series. I believe it's a novelization of episodes, not original story. But you have these businessmen that want to take over an older section, of Gotham, including Crime Alley, and they kidnap Leslie Thompson because she knows what's going on. But they don't know that she has a connection to Batman, so he's going to do what he can to rescue her and put a stop to this. Meanwhile, another bad guy has come into town, and it's the person that killed the Grayson family. So Dick Grayson / Robin has a stake in all of this as well. I love the Batman the Animated Series, and it was just fun to read these. I don't know that they're young adult. I feel like they're young adult books based on the show. And then only 2 more books. Tropical Depression by Lawrence Shames. And this is, I had to look this up. Apparently, it's the 4th book in a series. I don't know why I just read book 4. But this is a mystery comedy kind of book. And we've got a guy, his name is Murray Zemmelman. He's the Bra King. And he's going down to the Florida Keys to try and win back his first wife, Franny. And along the way, he meets this guy named Tommy Tarpon, who is the last member of this little-known Indian tribe. That's how they describe it on Amazon. And so Murray and Tommy sort of hatch this plan. They're going to open the first casino in the Florida Keys. But of course, the mafia and some other shady folks want to stop them from doing that. They get involved. So it's lots of shenanigans down in Florida. It's the kind of book I normally like, the Carl Hiaasen kind of thing. But I don't see any more Lawrence Shames, so it must not have made a big impression. And then finally, the last book that I read in February. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books. Flying through these. But the last one I read in February of 1997 is Star Wars X-Wing The Bacta War by Michael A. Stackpole. And our bad guy for the previous 2 books is back. The Ice Queen, Isan Isard, however you say her name. And she, wants to put an end to this new republic. And so she goes after their medical supplies, basically. If you're a Star Wars fan, you should be familiar with the Bacta tank. So she takes over this planet that produces Bacta, and so the X-Wing Rogue Squadron wants to go and liberate the planet from her, but the New Republic has another assignment for them, and so the pilots, the X-Wing pilots, basically literally go rogue. They leave the New Republic because they think that stopping Isard is the more important thing for them to do, and so they go rogue, and they have to deal with their rogue status essentially, and trying to stop this bad person and keeping the Bacta flowing. It's kind of like the spice, I guess. But again, I like the X-Wing stuff. With very few, I say this every time, with very few big name movie Star Wars characters, anything can happen. Since so many of these characters are original to these books, you never know what's going to happen, and they're fun. I like them, and I like the whole rogue sort of Black Ops corner of Star Wars. Excuse me. So that's it. That is what I read in February of 1997. Didn't bother to think of a question, so just let me know if any of these books catch your interest. Let me take a look at this list again. I know that probably on this list, Rider of the Purple Rage would be the book that I liked the most. It's Joe R. Lansdale. The man is an amazing writer. Just one of my top three favorite authors. Then probably Prelude to Foundation after that. Isaac Asimov, just an amazing writer. But they all seem relatively interesting. I like the Columbo stuff. But does any of this catch your eye? Little bits of horror here and there. Rider of the Purple Rage, Otherwhere. We've got science fiction. We've got intellectual property stuff, mysteries, little comedy, all sorts of stuff there. What caught your ear? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. And if you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K. ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.